I want you to think about someone. Think about your grandfather or your grandmother. Think about what they did for a living, the skill they spent years mastering, the pride they took in their work, the identity they built around what they contributed to the world. Now ask yourself this question. What would they do if they were born in 2030? Because by 2030, the skills that defined a generation, the trades, the professions, the careers that gave people purpose, will be performed better by machines. Not some of them, most of them. And we are not ready for what that means. Not economically, not psychologically, not philosophically. Because for all of human history, our value was tied to what we could do, what we could build, what we could think, what we could create, what we could solve. And for the first time, a non-human intelligence is about to do all of those things better than us. So what happens to us? What happens to human purpose, human identity, human meaning? When the machine does everything better, what exactly are we for? That is not a dramatic question. That is not a philosophical exercise for a college classroom. That is the central question of the next 30 years. And nobody is asking it loudly enough. We are talking about jobs. We are talking about regulations. We are talking about who owns the AI. But we are not talking about the deeper question underneath all of it. Will humans still matter in 2050? Not as workers, not as consumers, not as voters, as beings, as a species. Will we still have a role in a world we created but can no longer keep up with? Hey, welcome back. This is the most important video we have made on this channel. Not because it has the best data, not because it covers the most ground, but because it asks the question that everything else is ultimately leading toward. The question that keeps philosophers, scientists, and technologists awake at 3 in the morning. Will humans still matter in 2050? Let's find out. To understand where we are going, we need to understand where we have been. For 99% of human history, humans mattered because of our physical capability. We could hunt, we could farm, we could build, we could fight. Then machines took most of that. The tractor replaced the farmer. The factory replaced the craftsman. The crane replaced the laborer, and humanity adapted. We said, our value is not in our bodies. Our value is in our minds. We think, we reason, we create, we imagine. No machine can do that. And for a while, we were right, but only for a while. In 2024, AI systems began outperforming humans in areas we considered exclusively human territory. Creativity. An AI won first place in a fine arts competition in Colorado. The judges did not know it was AI generated. Scientific reasoning. Google DeepMind's AlphaFold solved the protein folding problem, a challenge that had defeated the world's best scientists for 50 years. It solved it in months. Emotional intelligence. Studies show that people increasingly prefer talking to AI therapists over human ones. Not because the AI is warmer, because it never judges, never gets tired, never makes it about itself. Strategic thinking. AI systems now beat the world's best players at every strategy game ever invented. Chess, Go, poker, StarCraft. Games that require long-term planning, intuition, and the ability to deceive. One by one, the things we thought made us special are being matched, and then exceeded. Here is where the conversation gets genuinely uncomfortable. For most of human history, meaning came from necessity. You mattered because you were needed. Your family needed you to hunt. Your village needed you to build. Your company needed you to think. Your clients needed you to create. Necessity gave you purpose. Purpose gave you identity. Identity gave you meaning. But what happens in a world where you are not needed? Not because you failed, not because you were lazy, not because someone better came along, but simply because A machine does it better. This is not a hypothetical. This is already being studied by psychologists and sociologists in countries where automation has already eliminated significant portions of the working population. And what they are finding is alarming. When people lose their sense of being needed, they do not simply find something else to do. They lose their sense of self. Depression rises, addiction rises, isolation rises, suicide rises. This is already happening in communities where automation has hollowed out entire industries, and we have barely started. Let me show you the 2050 scenario that researchers are actually modeling. Not the optimistic one they put in the press release, the real one. By 2050, AI systems will likely be capable of performing the majority of cognitive tasks currently done by humans. Not all of them, but most. This means the concept of employment as we understand it today will look completely different. Some economists predict a post-work society, where basic income is provided and humans are free to pursue whatever they choose. That sounds appealing, until you ask the harder question. What will humans choose? History shows us that humans without purpose do not thrive. They deteriorate. The Roman citizens who received free bread and circuses from the empire did not use their freedom to build great things. They used it to consume entertainment, until the empire fell. Are we heading toward the greatest version of humanity, or the most comfortable collapse in history? And there is a darker scenario that almost nobody in mainstream media is willing to discuss. The scenario where it is not just jobs that AI replaces, but decisions. We have already seen this beginning: AI making medical decisions, AI making legal decisions, AI making financial decisions, AI making hiring decisions. Now extend that to 2050. AI making policy decisions, AI managing city infrastructure, AI directing scientific research, AI allocating resources globally. Not because humans chose to give it control, but because AI simply became better at these things than any human institution. And humans, gradually, stopped being asked. Not through revolution, not through war, through irrelevance. The most dangerous takeover in history would not look like a takeover at all. It would look like convenience. Now, I have to give you the other side of this, because there are serious thinkers who believe the 2050 scenario looks completely different. Not a world where humans are irrelevant, but a world where humans are elevated. Where AI handles everything we currently consider work, and humans are finally free to focus on what we were always meant to do: connection, experience, art, love, exploration, the things that have no productivity metric, no efficiency score, the things that make life worth living. Yuval Noah Harari, one of the most important historians of our time, argues that the question is not whether humans will matter. The question is which humans will matter. Because in every previous technological revolution, there were those who adapted and those who did not. The ones who adapted did not just survive, they defined the era. So what does this mean for you? Right now, today. Not in 2050, today. First, invest in what makes you irreducibly human. Your relationships, your empathy, your creativity, your judgment under uncertainty, your ability to lead people through moments that data cannot navigate. These are not soft skills. In 2050, these will be the only skills that matter. Second, become a student of AI, not to compete with it, but to direct it. The humans who matter most in 2050 will not be the ones who do things AI cannot do. They will be the ones who decide what AI should do. That requires understanding. That requires engagement. That requires you to stop treating AI as something that is happening to you and start treating it as something you can shape. Third, ask the deeper questions now. What gives your life meaning? Not your job, not your title, not your salary. What actually makes you feel that your existence matters? Because the people who have answered that question clearly will not be threatened by AI. They will use AI to pursue that meaning more powerfully than ever before. And the people who have not answered that question will find the next 30 years very difficult indeed. Let me leave you with this. In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. Within 50 years, the number of books in Europe went from around 30,000 to over 9 million. The scribes who had spent their lives copying text by hand were finished. Their skill made irrelevant overnight. But something else happened. Literacy exploded. Ideas spread. The Renaissance accelerated. The scientific revolution began. The printing press did not diminish humanity, it amplified it. But only for the humans who engaged with the new world it created. The ones who retreated into what they knew were left behind by history. AI is the printing press of our generation, except it is not just printing our words, it is beginning to think our thoughts. And the question is not whether that changes everything. It already has. The question is, who will you be on the other side of that change? If this video made you feel something, not just think, but genuinely feel something, that is the point. Hit like, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you have not already.